Hello and welcome to Meet the Writers. I'm Georgina Godwin. My guest today is an Argentinian author known for horror novels and short stories. She's a multiple award winner and has in turn judged many literary competitions. She's known for her short story 19 Claws and a Black Bird and the novels Kill the Girl and Tender is the Flesh, which established her as a best-selling author worldwide, with translations into 30 languages and 500,000 copies at least sold in English alone. Her new short novel is The Unworthy. Set in a religious society, it follows the diary entries of one woman in a rigid religious belief system believed to be unworthy. Agustina Bazterrica, welcome to Meet the Writers.
Thank you so much, Georgina. Pleasure.
Now, we're talking here at Hay Festival in Hay-on-Wye in Wales, so we're in the green room, so that's why it's a bit noisy.
Yes.
But it's really wonderful to get to have this opportunity to speak to you in person. We've seen your work, long admired it, and wanted to just sit opposite, face to face, and just talk about you and your life and work, and also the literary scene in Buenos Aires as a whole. Yes. Now, I understand that you come from a family of voracious readers.
Yes. My mother, she's a sociologist. I don't know. Sorry for my English.
That's okay. Sociologist.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And she's one of the most lucid persons that I know, and she reads a lot. And when we were kids, she read a lot of books. And my grandmother was one of the first women in Buenos Aires that studied economy. In her class, there were only 2 women, and she was one of those. And when I was a teenager, I go to her house to visit her. I take a champagne. I didn't drink it, but she did because she loved champagne. And we talk about books. And she had like this amazing library, I say, in her house with books in French, English, Spanish. And my brothers and my sister, they also read a lot. And I give my draft to my sister, Pilar. And although she works with numbers, she's such a good reader that I'm really attentive when she says this is good or this is really bad. So I take her opinion really seriously.
So despite being sort of ingrained in literature from very early on, you actually wanted to be an opera singer, I believe.
Yeah. You did your research. Yeah, because when I finished school, I started working at the Colón Theater. That is one of the biggest theaters and most important theaters in Latin America, as a guide, a bilingual guide. So the first opera that I saw was Porgy and Bess by Gershwin, and I fell in love with that, and I thought I want to do that. But I was really bad, you know. But I tried, and I studied music. I don't know. Today I cannot read a partiture, you know. But I tried in my way, and at the same time, I keep on writing. I went to a workshop. My mentor had that workshop. I know her since I was 19 years old. Liliana Diaz Mindurri is her name. And today I'm 51, and I'm still working with her, you know. So at one point, Liliana told me, you're going to write or you're going to sing? And I asked my singer teacher, should I keep on singing? And he said, well, you know, we're not going to lose Maria Callas, you know. And she told me, if you stop writing, I will kill you. So then I keep on writing, but I studied art history in the University of Buenos Aires. That was amazing because it gave me an open mind about everything, and I work a lot with the images, and the career that I studied gave me a lot of images because we had to analyze them.
Mm-hmm. You went into just secretarial work when you left, though.
Yeah, I stopped working as doing guides in the Colón Theater, and first I worked in an enterprise with accountants.
Right.
And then I started working in a law firm for 22 years as a secretary. Yeah, because, well, when I worked there, I studied my career, and I also keep on writing, but I had to pay my bills. So yeah, and now I'm living off my books for now, because with Argentina, you never know, you know.
Well, of course, and that is something else we really should discuss, is because Argentina has been in a politically volatile situation for a long time. How has that affected you?
In a lot of ways. I mean, first of all, the president of my country, I won't say my president because I didn't vote him, but the president of my country, he talks with his dead dog, and his sister that is running the country sell cakes on the internet. So that was their career. I mean, but I think that is, I don't know if the fault, but the responsibility of the other governments that came before, that they did everything wrong, and people are so tired of that they vote this man that it's actually crazy, you know? And today, living in Argentina is more expensive than living here, for example.
Because Xavier Milei's whole remit was he was going to fix the economy, and he hasn't not done that.
No, no. All the prices are really, really expensive. So, for example, I pay like a health insurance, and before he became president, I was paying like $20, and now I'm paying $200. You know, like it's a lot, and it's not that the salaries are increasing. So a lot of people are having a lot of problems. A lot of people are sleeping on the street because they cannot pay the rent, you know. But well, also in Argentina, we are used to crisis. We have in 2001 a really big crisis because the banks decided to keep our money, our savings. So if you had saved, for example, $100, you will stay with $1. Like they would convert that in $1. And a lot of people died or they killed themselves because they lost everything.
How is the current government affecting the creative industries?
I think it's early to say now. The creative, like the publishing houses and everything, well, they're struggling. Yeah, they're struggling because there are periods like buying a book today is a luxury. So although in Argentina, and especially in Buenos Aires, we have a lot of readers and a lot of events and a lot of little publishing house, independent publishing house, they're really struggling.
So you're a writer, and we're going to talk about your work, but you've also sort of in a unique position to have this great overview of the literary scene in Buenos Aires. What would you call yourself aside from a writer?
I would not define myself as a critic, maybe a curator sometimes, because for a long time I organized an event that it's called, in Spanish, Siga el Conejo Blanco, in English, Follow the White Rabbit, that we invited 5 authors and an artist, and we did amazing things. They had to read these 5 authors, and we relate their work with the artist that we invited, and we filmed everything, and you can see that on YouTube, and you have really writers that they have a really big career, and the others that were even published. So in that sense, yeah, I did that work of curator, but since the pandemic, we stopped doing it because we couldn't. And then afterwards, I started traveling a lot, so I couldn't organize it, you know.
Tell me about the bookshops in Buenos Aires in particular.
Yes, I love that because I always say that living in Buenos Aires and being a writer is like one of the best things, because we have a lot of cultural events, free. A lot of them are free. So if you want to go to a cultural event in Buenos Aires each day of the year, you can. And also we have, I think that Lisboa and Buenos Aires are like there, like with the quantity, the number of bookshops we have, that there are a lot of them. And we have a lot of people that I admire, that maybe they do something else. I was telling you before that I went to La Rioja in the north of Argentina, and a couple invite me. She doctored in education and he in philosophy, and they opened a bookshop during the pandemic because they wanted more books. And now they're inviting authors to La Rioja, that it's a place that maybe they don't have such a cultural life, but they're forming that. So I was like so admired. I really admire them. And there also happened to me in another town far away from Buenos Aires, like, I don't know, 8 hours on a car. Also a couple invite me to talk to the school. And also they created these events where they talk about the work of a really important writer that is called Juan José Saer, and is one of my favorite author in Argentina. And they do it with their money, So the man used his retirement payment to organize these cultural events in his city. And you have a lot of examples like that in Argentina, and it's so great.
And I know that you yourself do a lot of work in schools with children.
Yes, I have an Excel with all the schools that I visited, and until now it was like 101 schools I visited during the years. Yes, because they teach Tender is the Flesh in the schools. The unworthy in some of them, but not in all of them, because, it has
some disturbing themes, shall we say.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about those books. In fact, can we start, though, by talking about short stories?
Okay.
Tell me about your first short stories.
Well, I started writing poetry when I was in that workshop with Liliana. And it was really difficult for me to write a short story. Because, in poetry, you can talk about a feeling and that's that. But with the short story, you have to have a structure. So then I learned how to write short stories. So 19 Claws on a Blackbird, it's a recollection of some of the short stories that I wrote during years. For example, there is a short story that is called Roberto that I wrote when I was 19 years old. What I think that it's really clear when you read the book is that each short story is different from the other in the way that it's written, because for me it's really important that each story has a unique way of telling it. So I use different type of languages for each short story, because I try to tell something with the way I'm writing it. For example, I wrote a short story that is called Hell. The type of language that I use is really baroque, really extreme and artificial, because I want the reader to feel the hell, the inferno in the language. Mm-hmm. I have another short story that is called Architecture, that the protagonist is a Gothic cathedral. So I use a lot of technical language for that. And I have another one that it's called, the name in English, I don't remember. But I wrote it with, if an Argentine person read it, he or she will think that it was written first in English and then translated to Spanish, because it's written with a neutral Spanish. So I wanted to do that to reflect the artificial of the norms that the protagonist is receiving,
Extraordinary creative challenge for you. And I wonder then how that language works when it's translated into English.
Sarah Moses is my translator, and she is the best. I love her so much that when I wrote The Unworthy, I gave her my draft in Spanish. And of course, I pay her to do this job because it wasn't her job. I wanted her to give me her input because I think she's such a good reader. And when she's translating, she asks me a lot of questions, but also, of course, she's creating at the same time. So she resolves a lot of problems really lucidly, you know?
Let's talk about Tender is the Flesh, which
Yes.
really put you on the map. 2017, a dystopian novel. It won major awards. And this is where mass hysteria happens when a deadly virus jumps from animals to humans. So far, so familiar. But of course, this happened. You wrote this before COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, in the novel, the virus, you never know if it is real or if it's an invention, you know. But I thought about a virus because I never write fantasy. It's not that, for example, I don't know, aliens came and we became all cannibals. I think that this, if all the conditions are there, really could happen. And it's crazy because a reader sent me a podcast that were two guys from United States talking about the novel. And they really like the novel, but they say this could never happen because a government will never take your animals and kill them. And I thought, you never lived in Latin America, man, because in Latin America, in my country in the 70s, the government took your loved ones from their houses, they tortured them, they killed them, and they disappeared their bodies. And they did this on purpose because they wanted you to never have the closure, you know? So, yeah, government can do all of that.
The book is really an examination of capitalism.
Yes.
Tell us more.
You can read the plot literally. Of course, there were groups that ate human flesh, and it was justified. But you can also read it as a symbol of what we do with other beings. We eat symbolically other beings. For example, with prostitution with kids, you're consuming their energy. In Argentina, well, in Latin America, there are a lot of bordellos that are clandestine.
Yeah.
A lot of women that there are working as slaves because they were taken from the street or they were... So that is a way of consuming them also. So we treat other humans as if they were things and not our peers. And we do that also with animals and with nature. You know, so I'm trying to think about that in my book.
Let's come to your latest work now.
Yeah.
It's called The Unworthy, and it's kind of about religion. The society is governed by he and the superior sister. Tell us more.
I went to a nun school, a German nun school in Buenos Aires, and it was a really bad experience. You can realize if you read the book.
A convent, a Catholic convent.
Yeah, not a convent, a school,
yeah.
a high society school
Yeah.
with nuns. And the structure was the same as this book. We were all girls, all professors, women, the nuns, and the priest. Like, that is the structure. And what they did is that they talk about love, because Jesus in the Bible talks about love. But of course, they deformed everything because they talk about that, but at the same time, they teach you to control your companions and to judge them, and you are always being suspected of being unworthy, and of course a whore, because your virginity was like something you have to really kept there.
I'm feeling your pain. I went to a very similar school.
Oh my God, so you understand everything. And there was no companionship, there was no sorority, because of course if we were controlling ourselves, the nuns, well, they control you also, and you were submissive, you know. So the idea came later, but I mean the German was there, you know. I lived that experience.
So it's about control. It's about living in an oppressive regime. It's told from the first person.
Yes.
Yeah, and really about the ruined state of the world outside.
Yes, because I like to take to the extremes things that are nesting, you know. And for example, the climate change. Although Trump and the president of my country are denying the climate change, because of course the people that pay their campaigns are the enterprises that contaminate everything, it's real. It's real because, for example, in Argentina, we have a town that is called Bahía Blanca that was this year got flooded, and a lot of people lost their houses, and a lot of people die because of that. You can see the fires on Los Angeles. You can see a lot of different catastrophes all around the world. And so I take that to the extreme that all of that passed and we have nothing, you know. And so these girls, they have only this convent where you have a cult, and not a nice cult.
Yeah, it's beautifully written, but it's a horror story.
Thank you. I think everything is literature, so it's not that I am a fan of horror. I do read a lot of books of horror, but I do read a lot of essays. And for this book, for example, I read a really interesting essay written by Silvia Federici. It's called Caliban and the Witch, and she analyzes how and why women were accused of being witches and burned alive. Spoiler alert, capitalism. And so I think that I write like with a mixture of genders, because some people consider these books eco-feminist and other almost realistic. But of course, they're not love stories like the classical love stories. They're dark. So I understand why people tell that they're horror. But I use a lot of, in this book especially, poetry resources, because I began in writing poetry and I read a lot of poetry also. So, yeah.
Do you still sing?
No. No, I'm really, really bad. No.
Well, thank heavens you stuck to the writing. We are very grateful for your books and that they're now available in English. Thank you.
So much.
That's Agustina Bazterrica, and The Unworthy is published in the UK by Pushkin Press, and it's out now. You've been listening to Meet the Writers, thanks to my producer Steph Chungu, who also edited the show. And you can download this programme and previous episodes from our website or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Georgina Godwin. Thank you for listening.